Last year, we made a video about the things I don't bring anymore for day hikes. And the bigger point of that video was this: I think a lot of us are carrying way more than we need. And listen, people had opinions, apparently suggesting that you might not need to pack for every possible disaster scenario on a 2-hour day hike is controversial. But I stand by the bigger idea. Too much gear is not just annoying, it's heavy. And if you're newer to hiking, getting used to elevation gain, or hiking at altitude where everything already feels harder, that extra weight can turn a perfectly lovely hike into a death march with views. So today we're doing the flip side. This is what I actually pack for a day hike now. Not the fantasy flat lay version, not the ultralight internet version, not the I'm preparing to survive 14 days alone in the Yukon version. Just the real stuff that earns a spot for the kind of day hikes that most of us are doing most of the time. A few miles, a couple hours, something accessible, and something fun. And to be clear, if I'm hiking 12 or 15 miles above tree line, gaining 3 or 4,000 feet, or heading into high alpine terrain where the weather is a real factor, yes, I'm adjusting this kit. But for an everyday day hike, this is what actually comes with me. So, first up, shoes. For most everyday day hikes, I'm usually in trail running shoes now. I know hiking boots have had a chokehold on the hiking world for decades, and they absolutely still have their place. But for a lot of normal day hikes, I love trail runners. They're lightweight, they usually have great traction, and I like having a little more contact with the ground instead of feeling like I'm clomping around in a big boot that was designed to summit Everest and intimidate squirrels. And when people worry that trail runners don't have enough grip, remember that a lot of the same rubber technology shows up across both trail running shoes and hiking shoes. Vibram, for example, is used on all kinds of footwear. So it's not like the second you put on a trail runner, your feet become two greased dinner plates. It's not like that. That said, I don't wear trail running shoes for everything. If I'm doing a burlier hike, high alpine terrain, lots of sharp rock, a longer objective, or something where I want more torsional support and stiffness underfoot, then I'll still lean into a low cut hiking shoe. Trail runners are awesome, but they're not generally as durable as hiking shoes. If you wear them constantly on sharp, rugged terrain, you're going to blow through them a whole lot faster, which costs a lot more money. So, my rule is this: for everyday hikes, trail runners are usually my favorite. For bigger, rocky, more technical hikes, I want something with a little more structure. And if you're a beginner, don't overcomplicate this. The best hiking shoe is the one that feels comfortable, gives you decent traction, and doesn't destroy your feet. That is the bar. We can get nerdier later. Next, let's talk socks. Yes, you should probably wear wool socks for hiking. Wool does a much better job managing moisture, it helps with temperature regulation, and it tends to be way more comfortable over time than cotton, especially once your feet start sweating. But I also want to say this clearly. If you are brand new to hiking and you're just doing an hour-long trail near your house, please do not let the internet convince you that you're going to spontaneously combust because you wore cotton socks. Outdoor people love to make everything sound very dire. Are wool socks better? Yes. Are they one of the first small upgrades I'd recommend? Also, yes. But if you're just trying hiking, use what you have. Just understand the trade off. Cotton absorbs moisture and holds on to sweat, which can lead to hot spots, rubbing, and blisters, especially on longer hikes. So once you're ready to invest, I'm a big fan of Darn Tough socks. I also really like Injinji toe socks, especially if you tend to get rubbing between your toes. They look a little unhinged when you first put them on, like gloves for your feet, but they work. Next up, we're talking shirts, and it's the same idea with your shirt. Ideally, I'm wearing a synthetic or merino wool shirt for hiking because it manages sweat better than cotton. Cotton is cozy, cotton is familiar, cotton is great for sitting on the couch and eating snacks in a judgmental free environment. But once you start sweating on the trail, cotton's going to hold on to moisture, and that can make you feel clammy, cold, or just gross depending on the weather. But yes, there are times when cotton can be great for hiking too, like I talk about in this video from last year. So check it out. That said, you don't need to immediately drop $100 on a wool hiking shirt to go hike for an hour. If you already have a synthetic workout shirt, start there. It will wick sweat better than a cotton t shirt, and it's already free, which is everyone's favorite price. When you are ready to upgrade, I do really like merino wool for hiking, especially because it doesn't stink as quickly as synthetic. I've been a big fan of the women's specific Kari Tra Embla wool tee. It feels good, it performs well, and it doesn't look like I'm wearing something built exclusively for a spreadsheet of technical specs. But beginner rule, use the synthetic workout shirt you already own first. Now, for bottoms, this is going to depend on the hike, the weather, and frankly, my mood. If it's a shorter hike, like less than an hour or two, I'll often wear shorts. But honestly, I still default to hiking pants or tights a lot of the time because I cannot stand the way a backpack can make my shorts right up my backside. It drives me absolutely bonkers. So, for a lot of hikes, I prefer hiking tights. They move well with your body, they don't get in the way, and a lot of them have enough pockets now that they're basically socially acceptable cargo pants. I've been testing the new Fjallraven Keb Agile tights, and I'm a huge fan despite the price. They move really well, they're durable, and they have that technical Fjallraven feel that I truly love. Are they overkill for a 1 hour loop near town? Probably. But for a longer day hike where I want mobility, pockets, and a little more protection than shorts, I really, really like them. But again, the point is not that you need my exact tights. The point is to wear something comfortable that lets you move, doesn't chafe, and doesn't make you spend the whole hike fighting with your own clothing. Now let's talk about the backpack because this is one of the places that I do think is worth investing pretty quickly. Yes, your old school backpack will technically work. Your JanSport can hold a granola bar and a rain jacket. It has served its country. But if you're carrying water, layers, snacks, and a few basics like a first aid kit, you're probably going to be a lot happier with an actual day pack that has a hip belt, decent shoulder straps, and a fit that works with your body. For most everyday hikes, I like something in the 25 to 25-liter range. That's usually plenty for a couple-hour hike, especially if you're not trying to bring every item REI has ever sold. If you're getting into longer, more technical day hikes, then you can look at the 25 to 30 liters range, if not a little bit more. But for a normal day hike, you don't need a backpack large enough to flee from society. The big things I look for are fit, comfort, and access. How does it carry weight? Does it sit comfortably on my hips? And do the shoulder straps work with my body? Not her body or his body, my body. And for women especially, pay attention to how the straps fit around your chest and your boobs and whether the hip belt actually sits where it should. More often than not, hip belt's right above your hips as a woman, so don't stress about that. It is just our anatomy. Next up is a quick one: sun protection. This doesn't need to be complicated. Wear what you already have that helps keep the sun off your face and your skin. Simple. A hat, sunglasses, sunscreen, a sun hoodie, whatever works. The important part is that you actually use it. And especially if you're hiking at altitude, don't forget, because the sun is rude and it will find you. Next, we're talking about rain shells because I almost always, no, I always bring some type of rain shell. Before anyone panics, I'm not saying you need a $500 technical hard shell for a normal day hike, especially as a beginner. A regular rain jacket is just fine. The point is to have something that blocks wind and rain if the weather changes, especially if you're hiking in the mountains where the forecast can go from cute little outing to why is the sky personally attacking me really quickly. Even if you just go out for an hour or two, weather can change fast, so it's a good idea to always be prepared. For everyday hikes, I want something lightweight enough that I don't resent carrying it, but protective enough that I'm not miserable if the weather does take a turn. If I'm doing bigger alpine hike, longer mileage, or something with real exposure, then yes, I'll think more carefully about the shell. I might want something more breathable, more protectable, and more durable. But for a normal day hike, you do not need the fanciest jacket on the internet. You need something that keeps you dry enough and protected enough and warm enough to keep moving. Now, let's talk about the category that got people the most fired up last time: water. To be very clear, I am not saying don't bring enough water. Please bring water. Hydration is not a conspiracy. What I am saying is that you probably don't need 4 liters of water for a 1 hour hike unless it is extremely hot, extremely exposed, unusually hard, or you personally know you drink more than a camel. A general rule of thumb is about a half liter of water per hour of hiking. So if you're going out for an hour, 1 liter, basically one Nalgene, is often plenty. Of course, that does change. It changes based on your fitness, how hot it is, how much altitude you're gaining, whether you're hiking at altitude, whether you sweat a lot, whether you're bringing your kids or your dogs or your grandma, or whether the trail is exposed and shaded. But only you can gauge those details. But my bigger point is this: water is heavy. And if you're newer to hiking or getting used to elevation gain, carrying way more water than you need can make the hike feel harder and way more difficult than it has to be. I also carry a lot about how I carry water. I don't personally love Nalgene's or hard bottles while I'm hiking because they're a pain to access while I'm moving. If I have to stop, take off my pack, and dig out my water bottle every time I need a sip, I'm just not going to drink as much. So I often prefer a hydration bladder with a tube. Or even more lately, I've been using soft flax that I can keep in my chest straps. They're easy to reach, easy to drink while I'm walking, and they make it more likely that I actually carry the water, that I actually drink the water that I bothered to carry in. Because otherwise, congratulations, I just carried a decorative burden up the mountain. Next, we're talking about snacks. And once again, this is a place where people tend to either bring nothing and dramatically bonk, or they bring enough food to cater a small wedding. For a normal day hike, you don't need to overthink it. A rough guideline is about 200 to 300 calories per hour for a general hike. And it's closer to 300 per hour if it's a harder, steeper, colder, or if you know you just burn through energy really fast. So if you're going out for an hour or two, that might only be like a granola bar and some gummy bears. That's it. That said, trail food is delicious. And if your dream is to bring a gourmet lunch and have a trail side picnic with cheese and tiny pickles and a full emotional support sandwich, get on with your bad self. I support joy. I often bring extra calories too because no one likes being hungry and because gummy bears have never made a hike worse. But don't accidentally turn your snack bag into the heaviest thing in your backpack if you're just going to hike it all back to the car. Next, let's talk ouchies. I always bring a small safety kit, but emphasis on small. I am not packing an entire urgent care clinic for a 2 hour day hike. I just want the basics: a few band aids, some antiseptic wipes, a couple of bandages, and anything personal I know I might need. For most normal day hikes, this is less about treating some disaster of a wilderness experience and more about handling the annoying little stuff that can make a hike miserable: a blister, a scrape, a small cut from a rock, something that is not life threatening, but is absolutely capable of ruining your hike. If I'm heading somewhere longer, more remote, or more technical, then yes, I will adjust this. But for an everyday day hike, I want enough to deal with the most likely problems without turning my backpack into a mobile pharmacy. And finally, if you squat when you pee, I am once again asking you to bring a pee cloth. You have heard me say this before many, many times. I should be on their payroll. You will hear me say it again. I love the Cooler Cloth. It makes peeing on a trail easier, cleaner, and less wasteful. And it means I don't have to pack toilet paper for every single pee stop. Because if you bring toilet paper, you need to pack it out, all of it. And if you've ever seen little bits of toilet paper flowers blooming besides the trail, you know that apparently this message has not reached everyone. A pea cloth is simple. It clips to your pack, it dries quickly. It's not glamorous, it's a pea rag. But neither is drip drying while mosquitoes declare war on your butt cheeks. So that is actually what I pack for a day hike now. The point is not that you need to copy my exact kit. The point is to think about what actually earns a spot in your backpack. Because a lot of us carry things because we saw them on a list or because someone online scared us into thinking we needed them, like me, or because we packed them once and never questioned it again. But your day hiking kit should match the hike you're actually doing. If you're heading out for a mellow 2 hour trail, you do not need to carry things like you're launching an expedition. And if you're heading into the Alpine for a long, remote, high consequence day, then yes, pack differently. That is the whole point. Prepared does not mean overpacked. It means thoughtful. And the more you hike, the more you figure out what you actually use, what you never touch, and what makes the day better without making your pack feel like a punishment. So if you want to see the flip side of this, I'll link the video we made last year about the things I don't bring anymore for day hikes. Because apparently that one made some people mad, which means it's probably worth watching. And I do want to know and hear from you. What is one thing you always bring on a day hike that other people might not think of? Tell me in the comments because I'm nosy and I love a good gear debate. We'll see you out there.